So silence your cell phones, hold your applause, and tune into the truth.
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody.
Getting beat up by 9 guys in Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shame in.
From the 315 to the world, this is the Heel to Face podcast.
The cream of the crop! Wow, man, freaked out!
Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Heel to the Face.
I said, are you ready?
From Armory Square in downtown Syracuse, New York, let's send it now to Dustin, Brandon, and Jared.
Bad luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
This is the Heel to Face podcast coming off of SummerSlam 2019, heading into Clash of Champions and even King of the Ring that'll be on Raw and SmackDown this upcoming week. We're joined as always with Brandon the Icebreaker Clements to my right on YouTube. You can find him on Twitter at Icebreaker21 and myself at KRock Jared on Twitter and Instagram. Most importantly, follow the show at Heel to the Face where you get our links and occasionally when we feel like it, some sort of Twitter questions of the week or this past weekend, the weekend Twitter question.
Yeah, I saw that.
And
Good stuff.
we'll kind of start right there. Twitter question of the weekend. I kind of felt it with the stuff I was hearing about when it comes to Becky Lynch out and about talking about how many can I say about there? Talking about Sasha Banks staying home. And while I thought that she might make an appearance at SummerSlam, she did make the appearance on Monday Night Raw. And overall, let's just start with SummerSlam. What was your overall opinions? I heard a lot of good things. Personally, being there in Toronto, it was an okay show, but it's kind of weird because everything we complain about when it comes to WrestleMania, they didn't do. And what I mean by that is they didn't put everyone on the card. In fact, it was probably the least amount of superstars on one pay-per-view this whole year. And it was probably the shortest pay-per-view of this whole year, which is so strange because I'll say this much. This is my first of the big 4 pay-per-views that I've gone to that took place in an arena, meaning all the WrestleManias and even the Royal Rumble I went to had that stadium feel, felt like I was going to WrestleMania every time. This was the first time where I was going to a pseudo WrestleMania, but going to a Monday Night Raw arena. So I was trying to feel how it would essentially feel different. We talk about the stage designs and everything, how Extreme Rules and Monday Night Raw, they feel and look identical. All these pay-per-views, because of the sets, feel and look identical. So how exactly was SummerSlam going to feel different than if I was just there for Extreme Rules, if I was there for Stomping Ground? How was I going to, in this stadium that fits 17,000 with a Monday Night Raw set, feel like this is a big 4 pay-per-view if more than, feel like a WrestleMania? And to me personally, it didn't so much. Yes, they did throw in the pyro.
Yes, a little bit. There wasn't a ton.
There wasn't a ton.
Enough.
There was a nice chant for pyro.
Yeah.
There was a chant for pyro because they announced it before they were going to do it. When it went black between the kickoff show and the start of the show, they did say, ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourself. We will have, when the show begins, a pyrotechnic display. And might as well just hit John Cena's music or something. That place went crazy. Started chanting pyro.
Yeah. Well, because we need pyro. We've been talking about pyro for the last couple of years on the show.
And then when the pyro, and then I did tell the person I was with, they said, the pyro's very loud. And I kind of felt like a liar because if you are familiar, and you've probably been to a Monday Night Raw since pyro has been around.
Yep.
The pyro that was used at SummerSlam, I don't know, you can tell on TV because it's not that loud. But the pyro normally, when WWE used it in the past, very loud inside an arena. This was different pyro. This was a little toned down. This was like a mixture of, we're going to give you pyro, but we've done a little bit of research and we've get a little more safer pyro, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily cheaper pyro because I don't know how that works, but it was definitely a pyro that made me feel like, okay, this isn't going to set anything on fire in case, because a lot of people try to say that WWE got rid of pyro not because of money, but because of, safety restrictions of being inside arenas and having fire.
Things like that.
So this definitely seemed like that might be up that alley in the sense because this was more like 1995 WWF pyro, just a splash, like bang, bang, bang.
Enough to give people, to whet the appetites of
I didn't have to plug my
fans.
ears. It wasn't anything crazy like that. It wasn't Kane's fire back in the day.
Now, since you were there, how was the atmosphere? Did you
it was a good crowd, sold out crowd. They actually sold tickets the day of, a little more behind the screen to fit even more people in there. But overall, it felt like crowd-wise, it felt like a bigger event. And I think the reason is because of that is pay-per-views in general just have an older audience. Less kids, more adults, more of the hardcore wrestling fans. And I feel that's how I felt in the Toronto area in general. You feel a lot of people who've driven to the area and traveled to the area. So that's where it has the WrestleMania feel that you're seeing a group of 10 adults, no children, who've driven hours and spent hundreds of dollars to come, more than just the typical families you see at house shows. But good atmosphere overall. Definitely for the price I paid, $40 for an upper deck seat. And because it's an arena, an upper deck seat there is literally like a $1,000 ticket. What would be at WrestleMania?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So no complaints here. A good show, but again, there was so many people on the card that I just felt should have been on the card, like Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns, not on the card at all.
really weird not having Roman on the card. That to me is strange. I mean, you got Buddy Murphy and Apollo Crews on the card, Drew Gulak and Oni Lorcan. You have them on the card, but no Roman Reigns.
So let me ask you this question. Extreme Rules, I felt, was a pretty good pay-per-view last month at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. Do you think SummerSlam was better than Extreme Rules? Extreme Rules, remember, had Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley in that last man standing match. You had, obviously, Brock Lesnar cashing in Money in the Bank at the end. Overall, did you think that SummerSlam was a better pay-per-view than Extreme Rules?
I do. I enjoyed it. It was actually, I won't give it 5 stars. I would say I give it like a 3.5. It was a good show. Some good matches. I mean, I got to tell you, I was very surprised at some of these results. I mean, I thought Ember Moon was
lack
going to
of
win.
title changes entirely. I thought that was the big thing. Now, I understand you got to save something for Monday Night Raw, a.k.a. Sasha Banks made a return on Monday Night Raw. And in the capacity that I thought, a lot of people were saying, even on the Twitter question of the weekend, that if Sasha Banks did return, it would be against Bayley. But I said no because of the feud that they were having on Twitter between, and the segment that Becky Lynch said about Sasha Banks staying home and being a crybaby and stuff. So I felt that if she was going to interfere, it would be in that match, which it was in that feud, not that match necessarily, but in that feud. But overall, I felt like lack of title changes at a big event like that.
Yeah, I mean, we both agreed. We thought Ember Moon was going to win the championship over Bayley.
I thought at least one of those belts would change hands.
That was interesting. I mean, overall it was a good show. I mean, it's always a good show when Brock Lesnar loses the title. So that's why you get a little extra kick. I was happy.
I would have been better
that.
if he lost the title. If he, let's say, didn't even cash in. Maybe he cashed in with the anticipation to face Seth Rollins in like the match or something like that. What was really the point of having him win less than a month ago, to just then lose to Seth Rollins, make it seem like Seth Rollins regained his throne? I mean, was not champion for like 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, but it's okay. I'm okay with it because I know it could have been a Vince McMahon, flipping the script again, because you know how Vince changes things at the last minute. So, I mean, we won't know for sure, but that could be a possibility.
You got to admit, though, that was a good match. A lot of people always say, Brock Lesnar, and a lot of times his gimmick is like the Goldberg gimmick and just squash you. But overall, I felt that was a good match.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, Seth does what Seth does, and he carried Brock in the match. And so overall, it was
carried Brock.
He did carry Brock.
I mean, Brock's can work.
Brock is not as good of a worker as he used to be. Seth Rollins is like an AJ Styles. If you put Seth Rollins in a match with just about any superstar, it's going to be a halfway decent match. AJ Styles has done that. AJ Styles even made the Brock Lesnar match decent. I mean, Seth Rollins, I felt like this match was better than what Brock and AJ did before. But yeah, Seth Rollins is just it's so good to have him being the champion. I'm looking forward to seeing more of the Fiend, Bray Wyatt. That entrance,
I did like that
cool.
he wasn't on Raw and SmackDown because it kind of gave you what you don't like in Brock. It kind of gives him the little more specialness. He showed up on SummerSlam. I felt that was a highlight on SummerSlam. Definitely one of the highlights for me on that whole event was Bray Wyatt's appearance.
That
Bray Wyatt's
entrance
the match,
was cool.
The entrance, everything
cool.
surrounded with Bray Wyatt. Another highlight for me, and again, I like how they did this because, again, we saw this coming. Goldberg just squashed Dolph Ziggler in 30 seconds. But the way that they kind of did the joking with Dolph Ziggler and Goldberg coming back, I was very entertained by that.
Yeah, that was pretty good. But I mean, here's the thing: we knew that was going to happen. I think we joked.
Well, then that's the problem. That's SummerSlam is supposed to be the WrestleMania of the summer, and the only way that they essentially made it the SummerSlam of the summer, or the WrestleMania of the summer, if you will, is by throwing in these big names. Why it's different than Extreme Rules? Because again, Extreme Rules was longer, same size crowd, same size arena. What's the difference? Well, they throw in the part-timers. That's how they tried to make this essentially feel like WrestleMania, is by throwing in Goldberg and Trish Stratus. But unfortunately, the problem with Goldberg is he was in a match that had no build-up at all, and he squashed Dolph Ziggler in 30 seconds.
Poorly booked. It was just kind of thrown together last minute. I've said this on multiple shows. WWE Creative I feel like they just throw things together last minute. Like, where's the planning? Now, I will say this. This was last minute planned. I mean, we kind of already had a feeling. Trish Stratus in Toronto. We kind of had a feeling that was going to happen.
I picked Charlotte Flair to win, and she did win.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember. I think I picked Trish.
Well, I picked Charlotte because, well, no, you picked Charlotte.
Did
I think we both agreed because she's the Roman Reigns of the women's division, and we weren't going to have her lose, which she didn't, because you're supposed to be building her up. You can't have her lose to a part-timer like Trish Stratus.
Let me ask you this. What did you think of Trish in ring? Did you think she looked okay?
She did look okay. I noticed that the outfit that she was wearing had the appearance on the side that it was her skin. But it was not. It was also part of the fabric to kind of, show that she is getting a little bit older. She is not as she's not the muscle and fitness cover girl as she once was. I guess
she still looks great though.
Well, I mean, for obviously her age. I mean,
being a mother. That's a lot of work on your body right there. So I mean, she has a yoga studio, so she's in really good shape. So I thought she looked pretty solid. I don't think Charlotte necessarily carried her by any means. But I think I thought overall it was a halfway decent match. I thought it was better than how it was built. I thought like the way they built it, it was going to be eh. It was. I would say it was a solid match.
I was pretty entertained by Becky Lynch and Natalya to kick off the show. I thought that was a good match.
Yeah, that was. I'll be honest with you. I really liked how the match played out. Becky Lynch looked really good in that match, and then obviously Natalya gets hurt. The thing that I don't like, not to move over to Raw, but what are your thoughts on Sasha attacking Becky and making Becky look like looking defeated? Like, what are you? Because Becky looks so unstoppable,
And I think it's great. This is essentially what you're supposed to do. I get it that they didn't do it at the pay-per-view. The problem is my idea is that the pay-per-view should have had more stuff. Like WrestleMania, you have a lot of stuff happen on Raw because you have a lot of stuff happen at WrestleMania. SummerSlam didn't really have much happen, and then at Raw you had Sasha Banks come out. And I felt that that's perfect right there because of the fact that you say Becky Lynch looks unstoppable. That's why you need the story, the chapter to flip. The end of a show leaves you with a cliffhanger to get you ready for the next one. And that's what this one did. Sasha Banks comes out and says your chapter when Talia necessarily, is over. Now it's time to get rehyped. It's time to get a new opponent. And I felt in the women's division, especially, the lack of really solid competitors that they have in the women's division. And once you've gone through the gauntlet of who you got, you can't really go from SummerSlam. She did that. She already went from WrestleMania to, the Iconics of the world or, the Lacey Evans of the world. It's time to bring in a formidable foe like Sasha Banks to kind of really give her a taste and really give her a run for her money.
Speaking of Lacey Evans, where's she been? She's been off the TV. Baron Corbin's been off TV.
Yeah, they were both, there. Everybody was there. That's what's crazy about all this. They were all there. And I'm fine with them kind of being off the card, but I guess maybe like a dark match or something like that.
Yeah.
I was expecting.
They haven't been on TV, though.
Yeah.
Corbin and
they weren't on Raw or SmackDown this past week. Yes, they haven't been on Raw or SmackDown last week either because they didn't really have any matches. Braun Strowman was there all weekend. He made an appearance on Raw this week, but he had no appearance at SummerSlam.
It's so weird. And I will say this, Sasha Banks being back, I think it's going to, it's a little juice to the women's division. So I'm excited to see this battle between, Banks and Lynch. It's going to be fun.
So let me ask you this question. With what SummerSlam did when it comes to a card and feeling like only the best of the best, and if a match is a match, then it's going to happen without just throwing everything out there, would you like to see a SummerSlam ideology towards WrestleMania?
Yes, in some aspects. Yes.
Because there's 15 matches on the WrestleMania card. Everybody's on the card, whether or not they had a feud going or not. Do you like it that pretty much if we didn't have a feud for you and we like Roman Reigns, Buddy Murphy, they could have thrown that out there. I get that. But, they essentially didn't have something for a lot of people. So they didn't just throw them out there just to throw them out there in a battle royal.
I like it. I do like it. It's cool that that you do put all the superstars in at WrestleMania. I know a lot of us don't like it, but it is cool.
Makes the show very long.
Yeah, it does make the show very long. What I would do is, to get everybody on the show, even if they're on for, I don't know, 15 seconds, like a Buddy Murphy before we'll talk about Raw and SmackDown this week, but, a guy like Buddy Murphy who hasn't done much, you put him on because he had no storylines, like at WrestleMania, for example. You could put him on, make a 50-man Royal Rumble just so you get everybody on the card. And
they do that. They do it. They have the the Andre the Giant Battle Royal.
But it's not. But not everybody gets on though. There's still everyone.
WrestleMania.
Not everybody.
I feel like everybody gets on at WrestleMania. There isn't really anyone who doesn't get on because they literally had 15 matches this year and then the Battle Royal.
You don't see all the 205 Live guys.
I think a lot of them were in that Andre the Giant Battle Royal.
What's his name?
Plus you had the Cruiserweight Championship on the kickoff show itself.
What was the British guy name? Gallagher. Was Gallagher on it?
You're talking Noel? Or no, who's it?
Jack Gallagher.
Jack Gallagher. Oh, yes.
Yeah. I don't think he was on it.
I mean, yeah, not maybe
Guys like that.
everybody. Yeah, I was thinking the lead singer of Oasis, not the one you're thinking of.
I got you.
But no, I think everybody pretty much is on. There is definitely no complaint when it comes to WrestleMania. If you're looking for me to get everybody on talking about complaint of not enough people on the card, that's not a complaint at all. I think definitely they maximize the amount of people they can get on the card at WrestleMania. If you didn't get on the card at WrestleMania, you're doing something wrong because literally everybody, that's why those battle royals exist. I didn't necessarily think that you needed more people on the card. My problem with SummerSlam was essentially if all those matches were really booked well, then that was enough. But my problem is like the Goldberg Dolph Ziggler
booking.
Goldberg Dolph Ziggler had a week worth of hype. If Goldberg Dolph Ziggler had like 2 months worth of hype and Charlotte and Trish Stratus had 2 months worth of hype, then yes, don't just throw any matches out there. Don't just throw everybody on the card. But the problem is, while it did have a low amount of matches, some of those matches still were WrestleMania build in the sense of like on Monday Night Raw, they were just made.
True. Yeah, I mean, it was like it was just thrown together. Now, I have to say, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but once again, Takeover
was a great show.
It was a great show. Fantastic. It was, to me, it was the show of the weekend. I loved every match. I mean, and it was cool to see Austin Theory was shown in the crowd. That was cool. So
yes.
Evolution champ. So looking forward to seeing him soon. I enjoyed the 2 out of 3 falls.
Dude,
that was awesome.
I feel like some of that is like AA to NXT. Like it feels like WWE is expanding further now to more than just NXT, having development under development.
Yeah, I would say that's a perfect example. I mean, WWE is obviously the bigs, and then you have NXT as AAA, and Evolve is definitely AA. I would definitely say that because they even advertise it like that. Like Evolve is the guys you will see later on in WWE, pretty much. Is how they kind of advertise it. So it's like, in 5 years you're going to see this guy is going to be the main event in WWE. Essentially that is the AA, and overall I thought it was a great show. I mean,
it's just so precise. NXT doesn't waste any time. It is not a 4-hour show. It is 2.5 hours. Everything's good.
Get to it.
Nothing is wasted. It is the most perfect program that they put on.
And for an hour match, Cole and Gargano was great. That was a hell of a match. I love the finish. The finish where they both go from the top of the cage, down to the tables, and then Cole, kind of just, they're both like out of it. Cole puts his arm, just has enough juice to get his arm, and it gets the 1, 2, 3. That was a great finish. That to me was the match of the weekend. I mean, you can also see, Velveteen Dream, winning again. That was a great match with Strong and Pete Dunne.
So Gargano, it looks all but sure that he's making it to the main roster after he had his little brief spot with Aleister Black a few months ago. But Gargano looking like he's going to make it to the main roster.
As you should.
Any feuds or anything you can look at, maybe him getting involved in?
I mean, honestly, I could see a guy like Sami Zayn. I mean, I think Sami Zayn's the guy. I mean, every time like Sami Zayn's been kind of going after the new guys. What the heck's their name? The Street Profits.
Street Profits.
The Street Profits, like you just saw this week. Sami Zayn was just kind of talking crap and giving them a hard time pretty much. I could see Sami Zayn doing that with Gargano. And the thing too is Gargano and Zayn, they both were indie guys too. So they could have some sort of dynamic there. Like, I took a long time to earn my stripes. You're still the new guy. They could do something, where Sami Zayn is now the veteran and on the main roster, and Gargano is like he's the upstart, the new guy on the roster. I could see something like that. I think that would be fun. It would be a great match. The issue that I had with Sami Zayn is I don't think Vince McMahon is very high on him. I think there's been a lot of reports coming out that Vince is not high on Sami Zayn. That's why Sami Zayn continues to get, these segments where like he looks like he's going to win, maybe get a big title, and then he's kind of like the throwaway. He's kind of like the Kofi Kingston until recently. I just don't see, I could see that being a good storyline. I think Gargano, it'd be a good stepping stone. I think at this point, I hate to say that about Sami, but Sami could be used as kind of enhancement talent. I hate saying that. Not exactly a squash or a jobber, but like he's a guy that's, he's going to wrestle around the mid card. He's going to put on a good show. He's going to be good with, the fans still appreciate him, but he's going to be there he's going to elevate. He's not going to be the squad, like the jobber. He's going to be the step up, like the first like legit guy you beat on the main roster. That's where I see Sami Zayn at this point.
So moving away from the SummerSlam, one final thing I want to say is I'll say this much. The kickoff show for SummerSlam might have been the best kickoff show of all the pay-per-views we've had so far this year, without a doubt. I mean, it didn't just have stupid matches. You had the segment with, you put Elias on the kickoff show, and he has a segment with Edge, and then you have the 2 championship matches, and they were all on the last hour of the kickoff show. You didn't drag it from 5, you know what I mean? With one.
It was
5 to 6 was
tighter.
nothing, and then 6 to 7, you had 3 matches and the Elias segment with Edge. I mean, and that kind of gave you the WrestleMania kind of feel, in the sense of Edge making an appearance.
Well, of course, Edge is gonna. I had like when I saw Edge there, I'm like, cool, he's back in his home, his home country, hometown. So that was cool. I love Elias, talking smack in those little musical segments. That's always fun.
As somebody who went to the Blue Jays game right before SummerSlam, I can attest to Elias. He ain't lying to you. It was sold out at SummerSlam, unlike the Blue Jays game.
Yeah, I was gonna say you attended both in the same day, right?
Yes.
So that had to be quite the Sunday for you.
No, it was a fun day. I mean, they're right next to each other, as we mentioned before. I went to the Superstore. One weird thing about the Superstore, it was in this huge convention center. It was underground 3 floors, meaning we had to go down 3 escalators. And obviously, it's a convention center, so each floor is a convention center. Yeah. And there wasn't much going on. So finding the Superstore and all the WrestleMania Access stuff was very hard to find. It wasn't, right there like you would expect when you walk in with big banners of wrestlers. It was hidden, like far away. Take the escalator down, then take the escalator down, and keep on going underground 3 floors, and then all the way to the end. So it wasn't one of those things that if you were in Toronto as a non-wrestling fan, you'd just be bombarded with it about, wow, this is a huge deal. You would have never known it was there. But moving on, we're going to move on to the King of the Ring tournament. Quickly just talk about that. Maybe not give, predictions or anything yet. But next week, they're bringing back the King of the Ring tournament. Unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of this. I love the King of the Ring. I don't really understand why they can't just make it a pay-per-view event. Why they just make it a arbitrary tournament over Raw and SmackDown.
It's to fill airtime. That's what it is.
There's so many pay-per-views that they could get rid of. I don't understand why in June, when Stomping Ground, for example, why couldn't that have just been the King of the Ring tournament?
Here's the thing. The thing I like...
It's got enough name on it that you promote it on Monday Night Raw as something, make it a pay-per-view, and maybe make it like it back in the day when the winner, just like the Royal Rumble, because remember King of the Ring, not as often as a Royal Rumble, but for like 5 to 10 years, had the thing where if you won the King of the Ring, you became #1 contender for SummerSlam.
Okay. I get what you're saying. And I do like the last part, like what you said. If they win the King of the Ring, it's a guaranteed title shot.
It's like it's the spring's Royal Rumble. It's the summer's Royal Rumble.
Here's my issue with that. I like the way they're doing it right now because they're building it up for a couple weeks. It's not like they just throw it together in one pay-per-view. I like this build. I'm a guy who I like to build things up. You like the Goldberg Ziggler thing. You throw it together last minute. To me, if you throw it together too quickly and you concise into one thing, it's not going to make it. I like it that way. Well, it has both, because remember there was King of the Ring qualifying matches that would take place on Raw and SmackDown in the past. But also, I like the idea of the fact that you're not just winning matches 2 weeks in a row, but you're running like a one-night gauntlet. It is kind of like a Royal Rumble style with you could do a test of endurance. You could do a happy medium. You could do it. Now, I wouldn't say it's a King of the Ring pay-per-view.
I think a King of the Ring pay-per-view maybe just the semifinals being on the pay-per-view itself.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, I mean, you can.
They've done that before, where it's literally just semifinals and championships. It's 3 matches. Kicks off the show with the 2 matches.
I don't mind
ends the show with the championship and all the matches in between.
I don't mind that. I mean, I think it'd be like the NCAA tournament. So to me, you make it like the Elite Eight, but in this case, it'd be
normally what the King of the Ring would be. They never had a huge tournament. Normally, it'd be just the last 8 at the most.
I would say your regional winners. You put it on the pay per view. So you have Region 1 versus Region 4, and then Region 2 versus Region 3. So you have the winners of those regions on the King of the Ring, and then the winners of those matches face off in the finals.
Yeah,
to win the King of the Ring, and you
like
do that
semifinal.
You do that. You do those 2 on pay per view. I'm good with it.
There's 2 semifinals to kick off the show, then a bunch of matches in between, and maybe end the show if it's a meaningful match. Probably still not end the show with the championship.
I still wouldn't call it King of the Ring. I would just. I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they'll ever bring it back.
Well, I don't understand why, because it's a brand that is.
Just do it. Honestly,
essentially, a good example of this is SummerSlam. SummerSlam to me was Extreme Rules, but why did people travel from all over the country and all over the globe to come to this event? Why was it treated like WrestleMania? Because of the name. The event itself isn't any better than Extreme Rules. The event itself wasn't much better than Stomping Ground. You throw in Goldberg and you call it SummerSlam, and all of a sudden it's this prestigious event. I don't understand why WWE doesn't do this. You take Stomping Ground. You have low attendance. You call it King of the Ring. Bam. Next thing you know, I'm flying from New York all the way to Seattle to watch King of the Ring, or AKA Stomping Ground, with the same card, because I think I'm going to one of the big 4 pay-per-views.
SummerSlam, what they should have done, is they should have started, do the King of the Ring before SummerSlam and do what we said. The regional finals, you have match, the two regional finals, that's two separate matches. And then, so you have two matches.
Does SummerSlam have the championship?
And there's two matches. And then you have the third match, which is which would be the winner of that semifinal. The winner of the King of the Ring faces the champion that night.
I mean,
that would be cool. But you still have to throw matches together.
I think we'll have to. I still think with all the pay-per-views they have, and Stomping Ground was just such a good example of a pay-per-view that just, you didn't have a theme for it. It never existed before. People weren't about it. So you could have put an existing name on it. A good example of that is you put Nikes on a pair of Walmart sneakers. All of a sudden, they're selling better than Walmart sneakers because they got the name Nike on it. WWE shows take place at the War Memorial here in Syracuse, New York, are garbage shows. But why are there people there? Because it has the WWE brand on it. Just like WWE itself is a brand, the pay-per-views are a brand. WrestleMania, if it took place at the War Memorial or if it took place at the Carrier Dome, could have the same card as a house show, but it'd sell out and there'd be people from all over the country coming because it's WrestleMania. The Super Bowl sometimes has 2 9-7 teams, but it's still watched like it's 2 16-0 teams facing off against each other because it's called the Super Bowl. So if it's 9-7 Dolphins versus 9-7 Giants, it's the same as if it's 15-0 Patriots versus 15-0 Seahawks, because the Super Bowl is a Super Bowl and that's the name, that's the brand. So WrestleMania the same, King of the Ring is the same. Why are they? This is just an arbitrary tournament they're having. But why are people going to be interested in watching on Monday Night Raw? Because it's called the King of the Ring. It's not just Drew McIntyre versus Samoa Joe. It's King of the Ring semifinal match 1.
Bringing it back full circle. Who are your early favorites?
Well, I mean, you were talking about Baron Corbin not being on TV. He's going to be back for this. Cesaro's in this. I gotta say Kevin Owens. I feel that they're going to do something with Kevin Owens and maybe a storyline with Shane McMahon. It's not completely, I'm sick of it, but I think I'm taking Kevin Owens in this.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the final is going to be Kevin Owens and Drew McIntyre. I think that's how they're going to build it. Those are the obvious two choices. I could see, one name that I could see, maybe getting a nice push, maybe like a Ricochet, somebody like that. Or for once, can you push our boy Cesaro? Like, let's push Cesaro. That'd be a cool, under the radar wild card. He hasn't gotten enough of a push. So hopefully maybe Cesaro's in there, but realistically, Owens and McIntyre.
So that's going to wrap it up for this week's edition of the show. We'll talk more King of the Ring next week as we get into the tournament. Quick thing, what did you think of Ricochet's outfit at SummerSlam? You were just talking about Ricochet. I'm not a big fan of it myself.
It looked almost like Seth Rollins. So
it looked looked like Black Panther mixed with Power Ranger.
Yeah, it looked too much like Seth Rollins. I wasn't a fan either.
All right, so that's going to do it for this week's edition of the show. Icebreaker21 on Twitter. That's my guy to the right. Myself at KRockJared on Twitter and Instagram. And most importantly, find the show at Heel to the Face on Twitter and Instagram. Next week, we'll talk more King of the Ring on the road to Clash of Champions and on the road to AEW. We're like a month and a half away from their making their TV debut. And don't forget, we still have All Out, their last pay-per-view event before Kenny Omega versus Dean Ambrose, a.k.a. Jon Moxley. We'll talk more about that next week. Till then,